at least in the US, we've just gone through a very polarizing election. Ideologically, there's lots of polarization, especially in the United States. How do we get to a place of connectionalism? Certainly not, I'm not talking about sameness, but how do we deal with our diversity within the context of our connection and welcome that diversity?
Right. I've always said, and certainly over the last couple of years, I've talked a lot about the big tent church, of can we live in the tension? Can we live out of that center, and can we broaden our center? My hope every day is that center can be broadened more and more, because I really do think that that's where most of us live. But I also recognize that there are people that can't live there. And is there some way that we can continue to honor and bless those who can't? I don't know how to say that any better at the moment, but I want to articulate it in a way that rather than tearing one another apart, can we just say, look, I know you can't live in my center, right? Your center's different than mine, and that's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person. In the words of my friend Bishop Palmer, there are no bad people. It's just you have a different perspective on this. I have dearest friends who stand on the total opposite place politically than I do. I don't love them any less. I hope they don't love me any less. And I think that there's just something that right now we're living in this culture where all we have to say is like bad stuff about each other, rather than saying, look, I don't agree with you. I don't know that I ever will, but I love you. And let's find a way that we can express that love for one another. And that might be together, and that might be separated, but that's still okay. And it's sort of blessing and sending. I was on the mediation team. We talked a lot about, how do you bless and send? I'd love the perfect world would be that, we could all live in this church together and honor one another's differences. I'm slowly beginning to realize that not everybody can do that. And so if we can't, then how do we bless one another and in the process and stop tearing one another apart? That is a pet peeve of mine. I just can't stand being in that rhetoric and in the sort of beating each other up from opposite sides of the room. Doesn't help anybody. So can we come together at some point? And that whole agree to disagree, maybe there is something to that.
You talk about living in the tension, and certainly with the delays in General Conference that have already happened, we are in that tension. So as you think about, living in the tension, what are the things that ground you when you are trying to live in the tension of everything is not resolved, everything is not figured out, we might not even know how to figure it out? How do you live in that tension of the in-between?
Yeah, the already, not yet, all of that kind of stuff that we learn in seminary, right? It's a hard place. It is, because you feel like you're being torn to shreds sometimes in the process. It's funny that in this time, I've gone back and pulled things off my bookshelf that I read a long time ago. And I was cleaning up some books, and it's like, here's Brueggemann's Prophetic Imagination. Let me pull that out and read it again. I went back to read Gil Rendell's Back to Zero. There's a lot of that I've just pulled out again. How do I live faithfully? How do I live with integrity in this time of tension? And how do I not get sucked into it? I think that's also going back to your previous question about the polarization. It's so easy to get sucked into it. And so how do I keep myself outside of that? Richard Rohr talks about leading from the edge of the inside. I just want to be out there leading from the edge, and looking in versus trying to be in the center looking out. And I just think sometimes our best teaching comes from the margins. Maybe having grown up in the margins, maybe again, my own personal experience helps me in understanding that. But I think when we're living in the tension, if you get too much in the center, all you see is your center. Whereas if you are leading from the edge of the edge of the outside here, it's can I look into it versus out from it. So I go back again. I said to some of the things that really have been foundational for me. I've gone back to a lot of Friedman and family systems, and because we're broken. I mean, there's just no other way to say it. But it's not only United Methodists that are broken. The world is kind of broken, and so maybe it's part of being a prophet that we're called to here is. Do we have enough imagination, prophetic imagination, is again borrowing from Brueggemann, to lead our people in a new way? One of the things, I forgot who said it, that creativity is birthed in the tension. So could we, in this time where who knows what's on either end of this, Susan Beaumont talks about it being liminal, being at a threshold. Nothing in our rearview mirror, it's like I look in my rearview mirror and it's like nothing in front of me looks very familiar, right? It looks like nothing in my rearview mirror. So how do I get creative? How do I sort of build in this time versus I could just pull the covers over my head. And in some kind of weird way, I find this time kind of exciting. Because I think that we're at a place where we might have an opportunity that we've never had before to be creative, to be imaginative. And so it's like, okay, that's kind of exciting to me to look into the future. One of my strength finders, my number one strength is futurist. So I think that I always have my eye in the future. So what is it that I can do in this time to help lead us there versus getting stuck here and not doing anything? I mean, because that's the danger here. You can pull the covers over your head and do nothing. And frankly, I will just say that there are days where pulling the covers over your head might be the best thing you can do. It's okay, but I do think that we have an opportunity here to use this time very differently, to sort of be imaginative, to be creative, and hopefully be a little prophetic.